Hey, chiropractors, welcome to Modern Chiropractic Mastery with your host, Dr. Kevin Christie, where we discuss the latest in marketing, business, and professional growth with some of the leading experts in the industry. Welcome to another episode of Modern Chiropractic Mastery. This is your host, Dr. Kevin Christie, and today we're doing an MPI Mastery Spotlight. This is with Dr. Eric Eiselt, who's been practicing for about 30 years now, and we dive into some of the essence of what it's taken for him to build a really like a raving patient base. So just a remarkable practice within a big group practice. And we dive in some of the nuances of group practice as well. Present time consciousness, really building rapport with your patients. He's someone that has done a great job of doing that. And we get a lot of great wisdom and insights from Doc on this particular episode. And, I challenge you to check out the MPI Adjust-a-thon. One of the things we do talk about in this episode is kind of your core product of palpation and manipulation. And so the MPI Adjust-a-thon, which is going to be September 27th and 28th in Kansas City, you're going to have Mark King, Brett Winchester, Lindsay Muma, Erica Menerick, Corey Campbell, Terry Elder, all there, plus others helping out to teach the palpation and adjustment. And there are two tracks. There is the student track and there is the DC track. I was there last year. My associate, Dr. Gage Winkle, is going to be there this year. I really enjoyed it. And the DC track really helps with more advanced palpation and adjustment with other, advanced DCs. So check that out, whether you're a student or a doctor. It's geared towards both of you. And there is a job fair aspect to it as well. So if you're looking for talent or you're a student or a doc looking for a job, there is kind of a cool DC student and intern, if you're looking for preceptors, match process they have there. So check that out. You can go to motionpalpation.org, click on their seminars. Highly recommend it. This is the Super Bowl of adjusting. So check that out. All right. Without further ado, here is my interview with Dr. Eric Eiselt. All right. Excited to have Dr. Eric Eiselt on the call today here to dive into a little bit of background on practice, some things to consider as a practicing DC. But before we dive into all those things, Doc, tell us a little bit about yourself personally and professionally, and we'll go from there.
Okay. Thanks for having me. I practice in Cincinnati in a large group practice with 8 other chiropractors. Practices Mark King and that group, Mount Lookout Chiropractic Center. I've been in practice just shy of 30 years. It'll be 30 years in March. So
Nice.
Excited and still have the fire to keep doing it every day, which I love. All my patients ask me when I'm ready to retire because we just added my son to the practice. And I said, I'm not going anywhere. I'm sorry. I love what I do, and I'm going to keep doing it as long as my body will let me keep adjusting people and taking care of people. So I think that's the main thing is I still love what I do after almost 30 years.
Yeah. And I think that's going to be a big thing we tackle today is because, I talked to a lot of chiropractors and I can't say that they all feel that way. And some of them are only 5 years in or 10 years in. So we will tackle that for sure. And so 30 years, I'm in my 20th year. And you get to that point where you got to be able to love what you're doing. And that's something that I think eludes a lot of people. I think there's definitely some strategies in that. And I do want to tackle that. But before we do, I actually wanted to tackle the group practice thing a little bit first. So, what would you say are what do you love most about having a group practice type of setup? And if you could, I mean, obviously it's pretty self-defined, but if you could define a little bit what that is and then why you like it.
Sure. So like you say, we have multi-doctors in there from chiropractic standpoint. We also have physical therapy. We do have functional medicine. So you kind of get a little bit of everything. We have had some acupuncture in the past, but all the practitioners all kind of have their own little strength and weakness. And I think the big thing with that group practice setting is we all kind of have to know what that is. And if you're not, I'm not a rehab guy, and that's just not my thing. We've got a guy or gal that can do that in the office, and you just know, like, hey, I've got you adjusted well. why don't you see one of these other docs from here on out, and they'll do some rehab on you. Or I don't do dry needling. I'll send them to one of their docs, or my son now is in. He's doing a great job with it. Um, and so I think Mark and I are the only two that don't do dry needling in our office. But it's not that we don't want. It's just there's other things we can focus on, and we have better strengths, and kind of keep the whole practice moving in the right direction. And I think that's a big thing. I think if you start getting egos in the way, that's when it gets, a little hairy and dicey.
Mhm.
So I guess, know your role and know what you're best at, and kind of stay in that lane, and then let everybody else do their thing. And I think that helps a lot.
Mhm.
And, I think the other thing is just try not to micromanage everything and everybody, like, I know it could be easy for me to micromanage my son now that he's there, and I really don't. I really don't. I totally stay away from that.
Mhm.
He'll ask me questions. We have dinner here and there, and just one-on-one, and say, how's it going? What do you have questions with? I try to help him obviously in every way I can, but I don't want to be on his toes. Like, hey, why did you adjust that? I never would do that or say that. He'll ask me. And so as a group practice with numerous owners and stuff, that's the one thing I don't think we want to do or can do, because it gets frustrating for those other docs or associates, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does, and I think you mentioned the strengths. I think that's obviously a huge positive. Is that as a collective and as a group, the practice can offer things, and it
Right.
doesn't mean every doctor has to do everything. And I think a lot of
Right.
chiropractors get bogged down where they're trying to do everything for the patient, right?
Right. And I think that, I don't know if we'll touch on this later or not, but you see some of these new practitioners, and I think they're trying to dive into every single thing for every patient. And I mean, I've been doing it a long time and seen a lot of people, and, I think Tom Lotus has said it for years, you got to, categorize these people, and, get them in the right place. And
Mhm.
I think sometimes as a young doctor, you want to do everything to them. Let's do Graston, let's do needling, let's do, some DNS. And you just throw too much at them, and I think it's just overload for one, their body, and two, their brain. There's like, what just happened to me, and why was all this? I think I'm more of a step by step. Like, we're doing this for 2 weeks. If we don't see an improvement, then we'll move on. It's worked well for me. I'm not saying it's perfect, but it has worked well. And I try not to throw too many things at them. Everybody like, hey, can I do traction? I can do this. I'm like, no, that's just too much for you. And I think that's another thing is, you can't throw everything at everybody right away. It's just my own opinion, but and it's worked so far. And I think some of these younger docs may get a little frustrated at times and don't know what to use and what tool, and to throw at them.
I
So
want to ask you a question on that, and you can punt it if you want, but I get this a lot, right? So, for instance, in our practice, we do we're at MPI, we do ART rehab,
Mhm.
and we also have shockwave. I'll just use this as an example where I'll get a patient comes in, treat them for a few weeks. Maybe we're hitting our head against the wall for something, and then I recommend, like, why don't we try the shockwave for it?
Right.
And they might say it doesn't happen too often, but they might say, "Oh, how come we didn't do that from the beginning?"
Hmm.
And what's your conversation with that patient where you've tried something for a couple weeks and then it maybe did hit your head against the wall, and then you tried something else within your office?
And then it
If
works.
they, yeah, and then it works. So, like, do you proactively say, "Well, this is why we didn't introduce it the first couple weeks. I thought we could get it done with this," or like, what are some of the conversations around that?
That's
To
one of them, is just saying, yeah, I thought, I've done this for 20 years, let's say, before Shockwave, and I got people better. And I'm not just going to throw everything at you right away, and, maybe increase your cost just because, I'm trying to feed the pocketbook. That's not what I'm into at all.
Mhm.
The money will come if you just take care of them. I mean, that's proven. I've proven that year after year, and show them that you care, that kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, I've done that. Like, well, let's try traction now. And I'm like,
Mhm.
we did that because I wanted to get more joint movement. I didn't want that thing as stuck as it was. And then let that traction be more valuable to you. Or let's work on these muscles a little bit. Then let's do the shockwave or dry needling or whatever. But yeah, I've had those conversations numerous times with,
Yeah.
why didn't you do this 2 weeks ago? Well, you weren't ready for it, is another word that, I mean, are words that I use. Like, you just weren't ready for it.
Mhm.
You have to do this systematically. And if you don't, I think we fail. And I've done that. I've done too many things at one time, and usually you fall on your face when you do it. So, yeah, sometimes you just say you weren't ready for it.
Yeah, that's the beauty of a treatment plan is that
Yeah.
you are progressing and regressing sometimes and
Yeah.
you're not ready for it. I know one thing that I've kind of brought up a couple times where I'll be like, you know how sometimes there's levels to care. There's conservative all the way into surgical, and there's these different
Right.
ways we can go with it. And a lot of times people have to refer out of their office to do that. Well, we have a lot of things in our office, and just like that, we're starting with what we think we can get done with the quickest and easiest for you. And that just didn't work in this case. It's worked a lot, but just like anything, it didn't.
Right.
And we're gonna try the next step in this phase.
Well, and I think when it comes down to that report of findings, maybe for the younger doc and
Mhm.
even in the older docs, because we get in a rut. I mean, we all do, we
Yeah.
all have, and if you say you don't, I think you're lying, kind of a thing, because we all have done it. Is at that report of findings, you say, look, here's what I'm going to offer the first couple weeks. We have a ton of other things we can throw at this. We have laser shockwave, taping, whatever, strapping. We have different things we can throw at this. Plantar fasciitis or whatever it is. That's a little harder to get after.
Mhm.
But I think if you tell them right away, that's helpful. Like, oh, there's more to this. There's more to this than just, one thing, an adjustment or just some muscle work. And then they say, hey, remember when you said that about, am I ready for that? Then they'll open up about that. So
Mhm.
I think it comes down to the reported findings, just let him know these are all the things we can do, because you can put as many signs in your office and as many
Yeah.
billboard or those, banners and stuff like that on the TV that we do all this. And they're like, oh, I didn't even know you adjusted extremities. I'm like,
Mm.
what? It's going across that banner like all the time. So,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? So sometimes you just have to lay it out on that report of findings and then say it again, because that first day they're in a lot of pain
Mhm.
and they're just not listening as well as you think they are. So you
Yeah.
got to kind of keep leading them along with what you're kind of seeing so they know.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. Let's take a break from today's episode and announce our first sponsor. This is going to be Propel Marketing and Design. I've known Darcy Sullivan for years. We've worked hand in hand on my websites. I don't trust anybody else to do this search engine optimization. She does a great job. There's so much to it. A lot of the lingo and the words are beyond my comprehension, but it's just amazing work that she does. And if you're really going to get results with Google, you have to make sure your website is SEO optimized. And I really don't want you doing it yourself as a chiropractor. So you just have to have this type of stuff done. And if you're looking to get more organic online traffic that pulls in new patients, Propel Marketing and Design is currently offering chiropractors who listen to this podcast a free SEO website review. The free review will help you uncover methods that will improve your website and boost your search engine visibility. Head over to propelyourcompany.com/chiropractor and schedule your free SEO website review. You won't regret it. She gets great results. Your website needs this. Your search results need this. Head on over there to propelyourcompany.com/chiropractor to get your free SEO website review. I want to one more topic within the
Yeah.
group practice aspect is getting to know the docs at your practice and things like that over the years. Do you feel like so the way I kind of would categorize certain things is within a group practice, obviously you could have partners, but you could also have a situation where not everybody are partners, but there's a sense of being kind of an intrapreneur where you're like maybe you don't maybe one of the docs or some of the docs in a particular group practice don't own or have ownership, but they feel like a sense of growth within the group. Has that been something that's been key for Mount Lookout, would you say?
Yeah, and I think, Mark set it up that way that everybody
Mm.
kind of feels like they have some ownership, quote unquote, but by, hey, if we collect this or that, you get a bigger bonus. So you want, and if somebody else sees your patient, you're bringing it into the office still while you're gone, and it allows a growth of collections, and then they get a bonus off of that. Is that kind of what you're asking about?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Where and you just feel like, you know what? Yeah, maybe I don't own the building and I don't own this, but I feel like I've got a sense of ownership and I've got growth within this group.
Yeah, and I think if you don't do that, then you're fighting for every single dollar, and we all want to make a living doing this, but you don't. I mean, you can't have too much competition in the office where you're starting to
Mhm.
fight with each other. That just doesn't work.
Yeah.
Um,
Uh,
and I don't know how many offices have as many chiros
mhm.
as we do in one place. A lot of times, there's a lot of those, family practices. I think out in South Dakota and stuff. I know there's like a group of like 9 brothers and cousins and stuff that work together, but it's sometimes family's even worse. But um, anyway, yeah, it's tough when you have different personalities, but I think you have to make sure that everybody is on the same page to try to grow that whole place and not just their own practice. But if you're growing your own practice, you're growing the whole practice too. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, absolutely. See,
within
I think
that.
that that's a key because obviously you'll get some practices where maybe they have 6 or 7 doctors, but it's owned by one person, and then everybody's on kind of a tough, let's call it a tough compensation structure that isn't really fruitful, and they just have a lot of high turnover. I think one of the things that's been pretty cool for you guys is the longevity of the doctors that are staying with the practice.
Right. And I think, like I said, it comes down to Mark being a leader and saying like, hey, I'm going to do it this way, and you guys will be part of the leadership group, or you're going to make better, pay if you all grow together. And
Mhm.
so, you each have your own silo or vertical within. And if everybody keeps growing their vertical, then the whole practice will grow. But you do it together and try not to fight with each other.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And then I want to take us into the treatment room for a minute here. One of the
Mhm.
things of getting to chat with Mark and Donna both a lot, and they both said the same thing where you have a good knack of patient communication, but also you're busy. You're a real busy doctor, but the patient feels like they're not just another number, and you're able to maintain kind of that present time consciousness with the patient. What are some of your insights when you're with that patient and really
Right.
listening to them and being an advocate for them?
Okay. Yeah. So I've always had this thing, like, I don't know, it's kind of a weird analogy, but when Michael Jordan put on his uniform, he was ready to play and ready to go.
Mhm.
He didn't wear his uniform around town and do anything, but he was focused on that and that only. So when I walk in those doors, my whole thing is my personality is the same way. I'm always the same even keeled guy, and I'm not grouchy or anything like that. If I have a bad day or something's going on, I cover it up as much as possible because the patient doesn't need to see that.
Mhm.
So I have the same hype. I don't want to say I'm hyperactive, but pretty close. But I walk in and it's all about them, and
Mhm.
I'm happy to see that person that day, even though even though they're probably not the most enjoyable person to be around. I got to make it like they are.
Yeah.
And my staff, they just always say, "Well, all your patients think that they're a VIP around here." And I said, "All
Mhm.
right, then I've sold them." Because that's what I want. I want to walk in and make sure that they know that they're the only one I'm worried about right now and at that time, and they're a VIP. And I've said that when there wasn't anybody in the waiting room, like, "What's going on? There's nobody waiting for you." I'm like, "I don't know. It's just I tried to roll out the red carpet for you. I heard you were coming in." I guess the staff didn't get the red carpet out in enough time, but they were like, they look at me like, wow, he really does, care about me.
Mhm.
And I've always said when oh, like, hey, how's it going? How was your weekend? What's going on? And they turn and say, hey, enough about me. What about you? How was your weekend? What's going on with you? Did you go to any concerts? Do anything? Did you make anything? Did you grill anything? I'm like, okay, what just happened here? Like, why
Yeah.
are they asking about me? And so then I quote unquote, I don't want to say that word, but then you have them. Like they're
Right.
sold. And it's almost become, I was thinking about this about 2, 3 months ago. It's almost like my patients now are just coming in like the old men and women that go to the diner and have coffee with their friends. It's kind of like, hey, I can go see Eric, and then I can also get an adjustment too, instead of the other way around.
Yeah.
And I think it comes down to when I walk in, I give them a high five, I give them knucks.
Mhm.
I'm like, hey, how you doing? I mean, every single person, I shake their hand when I walk in, or I give them a high five, like, hey, how's it going? Are you feeling better? Give me, let me know how things are going. And they tell me, we talk. I talk to them while I'm doing a stretch, some,
Mhm.
muscle release techniques or Graston. I'm doing those things, but I'm talking to them the whole, like having conversation with them.
Mhm.
Um, and it usually has nothing to do with their health. It has to do with their life. And I know a lot of people would say, you're supposed to go in there and talk only about chiropractic. I'm like, I haven't done that in 30 years. I I don't, because I want to get them off of that whole. I want them to think about life and what's going on. And a lot of times, what I do is I key in on something like, wait, what's going on? That's why you're having these issues. You are stressed out because this is happening with your daughter, and she had a miscarriage or whatever. And all of a sudden, you start thinking like, hey, that's why this patient's not getting this. They're stressed out. Okay, we got to talk
Mhm.
about this. And then they know like you care. So a lot of those conversations lead me into what's going on in their life. And then the next time I say, hey, how did the such and such go?" And they're like, "How do you remember that?" I'm like, "Well, you told me, I'll remember it. That's kind of the way I am. I'm a little weird." And I tell them I'm a little weird with that, but that's okay. But I'm focused on, what's going on in your life, and I want to make sure that it's just not about this adjustment. It's about what's going on. And are you stressed, or are you having, other things going on that, you need help with? So, yeah, it's just going in and just showing excitement and making sure they understand that I'm in that time with them. And I'll
Right.
go in with the patient for 2 to 3 minutes, and I'll walk in the next room like, "Man, you were in there for not very long." Like, "Yeah, they weren't not that difficult. They adjusted their ankle and they went down and did some therapy on it." And then I'm in that room with them less than I was with the last person. They're like, "Hey, thanks, doc. I'll see you later."
Yeah.
Like, I just laugh. I'm like, I was in that room less time than I was with the last patient, but they thought I was there for 10 minutes, but it was because it was all about them for that time.
Mhm.
Does that make
It,
sense?
it does. Let's take a short break for one of our great sponsors, TrackStat. It is a new type of software plugin for your EHR that combines patient communication, marketing, automation, and statistics with patient and employee tracking. Built by chiropractors for chiropractors, it shows your team what to focus on each day. See patient visit habits, missing information, unpaid bills, insurance collection visit average, and more. Great visibility of data so you can focus on filling your office with your best patients. When you can see what your staff and patients are doing or not doing and take action accordingly, your profits naturally grow. Take TrackStat for a test drive in your office with our free trial. Not a techie, no problem, we can help. To get started on your free trial, visit trackstat.org and watch the demo. That is trackstat.org. I've been kind of ruminating on this for a few months now. I saw it probably like an Instagram reel or something, but it's the idea of being, a thermostat versus a thermometer. And it's just saying is like the thermostat sets the temperature of the room, whereas the
Mhm.
thermometer reads the temperature of the room. And too many people are the thermometer versus the thermostat. And like really going in and setting that tone when you go into the room can make all the difference in the world. And second to that, Dr. Bobby maybe had done a CSA. We have the Chiropractic Success Academy, and he did a lesson on the idea of difficult patients. And I actually
Sure.
released the audio on a podcast a month or so ago. And it was the idea of like, there's this situation happening with a lot of chiropractors in general where they think a high percentage of their patients are difficult people, but it's more the fact that they just maybe don't mesh with them exactly, like, maybe they wouldn't go have a beer
Mhm.
with them, and so because they
Yeah.
wouldn't go have a beer with them, they consider them a difficult patient, and if that's gonna be your measuring stick of a difficult patient, you're gonna have a long road ahead of you in that.
100%.
And what are some of your thoughts on that conundrum?
Man, yeah, I mean, we've all had them, we all have them, and they're just like, "You're difficult." I kill them with kindness. I mean, even I don't know if they have to be rude, but just kill them with, like, trying to open them up a little bit and, like, get in there and get their psyche and, like, what makes you click? Like, what is it?
Yeah,
And you'll find out, they wanna talk about their favorite thing is gardening. Well, I don't really garden, but I like to do landscaping. So, you get my point. And I'll start just something like, wow, you just got to connect. The bottom line is you got to find that connection with each person. And I don't know if you can do that, you're golden. If you're not, you got to work at it. I mean,
yeah.
so I find a connection with everybody. I mean, even if they don't see eye to eye to me on like 80% of what the world is going, or you know what I mean, I'll find 20% and I'll build off of that. That's what you got to do. Does that kind of,
No, exactly, exactly,
you
I
got to
think
read the
that's
room. I mean,
yep,
you know,
and
it's the way it has to work.
yeah, and I think you just have to go in with that mindset of there's gonna be we kinda call them the 10 percenters where they really
Yeah.
are just a miserable human being.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
But I think what's happened is, like, people think 50% of their patients are difficult, but it's more just the fact that, you're a Vikings fan and they're a Packers fan. It's like, well, that's
Right.
not really a difficult patient. Like,
No, but I get along great with them because we talked how we don't like the Bears, It's like,
it's
it's 3 years old. We don't like
yeah,
the Bears then. I mean, it's just you can't not like the Lions because 'cause they're just so bad for so many years, but you get the point. You gotta find that one thing that you have connection with them, and you can't if you can't find one thing, I mean, yeah, you're probably not in the right profession because you gotta connect with your patient somehow, some way.
You
And
brought that back perfectly. Is just find out that you both don't like the Bears.
yeah, I mean, okay, so we can agree on this and we'll move on. And then we talk bad about the Bears for a while. And then
Exactly.
and then, okay, now you need to get this adjusted. Now let's go. And, tap the seat and like, all right, come over here. Let's get your back checked out. But you can sit in there and shoot the crap for, hours if you wanted to. But, the bottom line is we still have to make a living. And so you got to be able to do that somewhat quick, give them what they need, and then, show them the love and, tell them, stay out of trouble and I'll see you in a week or 2 weeks or the next day or whatever it is that you're going to do. And they feel like they've been in there for 10, 15 minutes and it was probably 5 minutes, 7 minutes.
Yeah.
I don't know. Sometimes I'm in there for 10 or 15 minutes. And to me, it feels like an eternity because I'm like, we really didn't get a whole lot done other than we the crap. And that's not always good.
So I want to kind of summarize a little bit before we move on to our last couple topics here. But a few things is, within a group practice, feeling like you have growth within that, whatever situation the chiropractor finds himself in, it definitely you want to have growth.
Mhm.
Two is definitely that present time consciousness. Even if you're having a bad day or that person isn't necessarily joyous, like you got to go in there and set the tone and
Mhm.
find that and really find that thing that you can connect with and really make sure that you're able to relate to them and it's more than
Yes.
just the treatment. And then that kind of ties into my kind of topic I wanted to cover with you because you mentioned 30 years and having a longevity and you still enjoy. Would you say those are some of the factors that have allowed you to have the longevity in that fascination and motivation of still this career? And then is there any other things that have helped you with that, or is it just in your DNA? I think it's a topic that a lot of people are discussing as far as longevity in this career. I would just love some of your insights.
I would have to say 100%. I love my patients, and I do truly. I don't. It's not made up that I think they're all VIPs. I want them to feel like a VIP, and I like them. I like each person for what they bring to me. I've learned a lot from my patients, and so that every day I go like, I wonder what I'll learn today from somebody. And I think
Yeah.
if you go in with that attitude, like you're the doctor, but you got to learn from your patients too, and that learning could be something outside of has nothing to do with their health, but then the other thing is to learn about their life and what's going on and how can I make this better for them. If they're going back and sitting in a bad posture or something like that, I go, wait, what are you doing? Where are you doing this work? Oh, I do it at my island in my house. I'm like, oh, geez, like we can't have that. That's a bad situation, and you know what I mean. So you're constantly digging in their life. And I've told
Yeah.
people, hey, I'm not trying to be nosy. I'm trying to figure out how I can help you the most and not just come in here and adjust you and leave. And they truly, enjoy that, but that gives me the fire to go in every day to learn from my patients is like, how can I learn or what can I do to make them have a better life and live pain-free and enjoy what they wanna do, and if it's golf or, like I said, gardening or
Mm.
if it's swimming or whatever it may be, I wanna get them to that as fast as possible. So that really makes me want to go in every day. I just love seeing people and chatting with them. But when I'm done for the day, I don't want to see anybody. I want to go home and and relax and not talk to anybody. So you got to have that balance. And I think
Mhm.
you know the longevity is I have balance. I have
Mhm.
a good balance between work and my home life and doing the things that I want to do, and not in a selfish way, but just enough that makes me feel good about what I'm doing. Does that make sense? Because I think a lot of
It
people go, 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 and they never shut themselves down.
Yeah. I think it's a huge thing, and I think that's something where you've kind of thread that needle of a very busy patient base, and when you're at work, you're humming along, but at the same time, you are also probably taking some days off, and you're doing things outside of that to where you can recharge those batteries.
Right. And I think if I didn't have that balance, I don't think I would have lasted. Mark set it up years ago, and he said, "These are the hours that you'll work." I
Mhm.
looked at it, I was like, "What? Like I only have to work 2 full days? You need time for balance." I'm like, "Dude, I want to work 8 hours a day every day. That's
Mhm.
just the way I'm wired." And he looks at me like, "No, like that's not how we do things." I'm like, okay," because I was a new doctor. I thought that's just what you had to do.
Yeah.
And I just said, okay, I'm going to do it. And that's what I've done. And, now it's almost, it's so great when you're done on that Monday all day and your Tuesday afternoon, you have that off and you're like, okay, I can do these 5 things that make me happy, that make me relax or whatever it is and gets my mind off of everything at the office. And so he kind of laid that down and it's like, okay, now I understand. And I hope that doctors are doing that. They're taking some time. And I come home. The other thing that's kind of funny on my full days, I come home every day, a full day, and I come home and have lunch and I take a 10-minute siesta and I get back up and I'm ready to go. I change my clothes. I go back to the office. And my patient was like, what do you do for 2 hours at home? I said, well, I'm not really there for 2 hours. I'm here. I'm doing some paperwork. I'm home for about an hour and 25 minutes. And I eat lunch. I relax. I return emails or mainly texts. I'm kind of, one of my favorites. And then just get things done. So I go back and I have a clear slate and I go back in the afternoon. I'm ready to go again.
Yeah. Yeah, makes
So,
sense. And I think that's one thing that we take for granted as chiropractors is many of us, and if you're not, you should have some half days in there in a week. And it's not that, it's not an indictment on your work ethic,
right.
and having that. And a lot of other doctors don't have that, right? I was like,
No.
my mom recently had surgery, and then the doctor was rounding every morning, and the surgeons. I mean, they got a tough. Maybe they're not in the office all the time, but they're doing surgeries at a surgery center. They're rounding on this. Like they don't have a whole lot of free time, and it's
No.
nice for us to be able to have that built in.
Right. And I think that's that longevity thing is I know when it's time. And
Mhm.
I told somebody the other day, I said, there can be a Saturday where I absolutely like I'm spent. Like I just need to rest and I'll just be a whole day of just I'm doing nothing. I'm not gonna do yard work. I'm just gonna crash and veg out and do nothing. And it's like boom, I'm ready to go by Sunday. I'm ready, and then Monday obviously it's back in the grind. But sometimes you just gotta take a day and just relax and don't worry about what's going on in life. And it helps. But I just think it's the fire of helping people for me. I guess is
Yep.
the probably number one. I love trying to figure things out. I've always been mechanically inclined and like, well, that just doesn't make sense. Like this makes more sense. Let's try this. And they're like, wow, nobody else has ever said that. All these other doctors are like, well, did they ever examine you? Well, not really. I'm like, well, we're gonna take a look at how things work. And they didn't. They just took a picture of you
Mhm.
with an X-ray. So I think that's the fire too. Is I just love trying to figure things out and fix them. And that gives me that every day to get up and go do it kind of thing.
Yeah. On your point of like just like a lazy Saturday, I heard a
Yeah.
term recently is there's a difference between laziness and strategic laziness. Uh,
Can I use
uh,
that?
str-
Can I borrow that?
yes, you can have that. Strategic laziness is important in one's life, and you shouldn't feel guilty about it. So,
No, no, I've proven that over and over. And I think this is what's working. I never used strategic, but I'm gonna have to use that from now on.
exactly. Let's take a short break from today's episode to tell you about the best decision I've made in my clinic in the last 10 years. And that has been adding shockwave therapy to our clinic. The outcomes have been really impressive. Certain conditions we were struggling with in the past, we're now seeing results with the shockwave therapy for that. And second of all, the ROI has been really good. When you make a big investment in something, you want to see a return. And we're seeing that return in clinical outcomes and in our investment. And that's been really nice to see. I chose Keenest Medical for 4 reasons. One is the technology is top notch. You have to have great technology. There's a lot out there that isn't quite up to snuff. The second thing is they have a really good clinical training. They have an exclusive partnership with Academy of Shockwave Excellence so that you can become clinically proficient in shockwave. You do need to get skilled at it. I think that's a big differentiator between practices that are getting great results and seeing the ROI is they have a great clinical aspect to that as well. So you want to get trained appropriately. Third is they have in-house service team for all of your technical support, which is key when you're investing in a machine like this. And then lastly, they have a very in-depth marketing and business support for you so that you can launch this into your practice effectively, that you can get that ROI on it, that you can get the clinical outcomes. And they also have really good financing options if you need that. So go to kinasmedical.com, KINAS medical.com, mention MCM podcast and receive a free Shockwave in practice book with a purchase of a unit. So that's kinasmedical.com, KINAS medical.com, and mention MCM podcast. Now, kind of lastly, I know we covered a lot of things that I think would really help DCs build a raving patient base, but I think too many are struggling with that. Is there anything I didn't ask or we talked about in addition to all the things we already did that would help them build a raving patient base? But anything you recommend them to do to really get that that momentum going?
Well, I think, well, as like from a new practitioner or anybody,
Yeah, I would
anybody
say
new.
someone that doesn't. Yeah, it could be anybody, but someone that doesn't
Yeah,
have a raving patient base right now and
I
they need
know.
that.
I think, well, I mean, we didn't even touch on this, but I think the number one thing is please learn how to adjust. I
Yep.
mean, that's probably the biggest thing is that I feel like, yeah, I went to this doctor didn't know how to adjust me and blah, blah, blah. And then you adjust them and they're, I heard you can do this, blah, blah. And nobody's adjusting like, we used to in the old days, I guess, if I can say that now that I'm been in practice so long. But people want to get adjusted. I mean, they really do. And then some, yeah, there's a lot that are like, hey, you're not going to crack my neck. I'm like, no, you don't need that. It's your low back. We'll be fine. We'll check it out. But you know, so there's still that scare of all that kind of stuff. But the bottom line is we have to get back to the adjusting and really moving some joints around, and it really makes a difference on how these people feel, for one. And then two, I know I touched on before, you have to come in with the same energy. I mean, if
Yep.
you don't, people will read you and they're like, yeah, this guy was low energy or he didn't, you have to be high energy, not high energy, like you're bouncing off the walls, but just really show that you're into them. Like when I'm doing my history, I'm sitting there leaning forward, maybe on the Gonstead bench, just kind of sitting with my legs crossed and like writing notes. And I'm just really into what they're saying. And they're like, this guy's actually listening. Then I repeat what they say here and there. And then they really know, like, hell, he was listening. And I think it all starts on that first visit. You got to come in with some personality and shake their hand and nice to meet you and thanks for coming in, that kind of stuff. And I think that's the key. I don't know. Um, I'm sure I have interns that would tell you other things that they've seen me do, but a lot of times I've done the same thing for so many years. I just think that everybody's doing that. So,
Mhm.
but I think it's that, and then just telling them a story that they told you, and reminding them, and that they really know you were listening.
Yeah.
Does that make
Yeah. Yeah, it's huge. And then going back to your adjusting part, I had a patient bring this up. He was a really successful business guy, and we were
Mm,
talking about business. He was talking about my practice. He's like, I come to you for a core product, and
right,
that is the adjustment. He's like, the other things you do, I like, but I come for that. And he was talking about that, and it made me always realize like that's, I think, a lot of chiropractors are struggling is that the core product that people are coming for isn't what it should be. And it's kind of like we can make fun of the Bengals for a minute here.
yeah,
Uh, it's like building that football team with it's kind of the outside in approach where you got no interior alignment. Your offensive line and defensive line sucks, but you got all these flashy players, right?
hmm,
And and it just doesn't work versus the football team that's built really stout on the interior, and then you add layers to it from there. As like I think a chiropractic practice, and that's what I love about motion palpation is that you build it from the inside out. It's like, okay, we're going to build you as a really good, palpation and adjusting. Your core product is going to be really strong. Then we
right,
can layer on the soft tissue work and we can layer on the DNS and the McKenzie and all the other things. But I
right,
think too many of them are they're building like the Miami Dolphins, right? They got the
yeah.
star players on the outside, but nothing on the inside. There's not that substance to it. And I just think we got to revisit that.
I agree 100%. And, Mark and I have had those discussions of like, we got to get back to the basics of getting these guys, get the core, like really learn how to adjust and palpate.
Yeah.
And I know Brett's on that whole bandwagon now too. And then you can
Yep.
start adding these things because, I mean, if you look back, Gonstead did it for years. He didn't have DNS. He got a lot of people better. I'm just saying, you got to start with that core and then you can build off of it and know what needs to be used for each patient. And that's amen. I mean, that's exactly where I try to teach these guys when they're interns are like, you got to be able to adjust and then throw in the other stuff. And people come for that adjustment. I've never had anybody come in and say, hey, I came here because I heard you can, rub my right elbow. It's like,
Yeah.
they want to have it adjusted and worked on and that kind of thing. So, go back to some of the basics and build around that. And the other thing real quickly is, try not to sell them the moon. I mean, try not to be quote unquote a salesman. Just give them what they need and be truthful,
Yeah.
and they will listen to what you say. I've never felt like I've ever had to sell my product, like,
Mhm.
and felt dirty about it. Do you know what I mean? Like, just
Oh, yeah.
be honest and just sell it. Like, this is what you need. This is why you need it. And I don't care if you've been in practice for 2 weeks, just say it with confidence. It's easier for, Mark and my, people like that can just say, oh, this is what you need. We've been in practice 30 plus years. People listen to that a little bit easier, but if you say it with confidence, they'll listen to you. I mean, and I think that's half the battles. These younger docs are just going in. They're a little afraid to tell them that they need to be in there 2 to 3 times a week for 4 weeks and or whatever. And they don't want to do that. So
Yeah, and I think that's another step in longevity to your point earlier, where like some of the younger DCs, maybe it's not as easy. They don't have the historical years behind them, and the patient isn't looking at them as like, yeah, you look old. You've been doing this for a while. I
yeah,
trust you.
yeah, you got gray
So
hair.
exactly, the gray hair is key in
Yeah,
practice. We're
exactly.
losing it, one of the two. But ultimately, if you're in year 4 or 6 and you're kind of like, how am I going to do this for another 35 years? Is it does get easier, it does get better. You get
Yeah,
better. Patients trust you more. Like the whole thing tends to get better. If it's not, you got to find someone to help you to re-engineer that thing.
right.
But typically, there's that getting over that chasm for sure.
Yeah, yeah. After year 4, it's a lot easier, but those first 4 years are definitely tough. I mean, to build that for most docs.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So. Well, Doc, this has been great. This has been
Well,
insightful.
I
I
appreciate
appreciate.
it.
Yeah, this has been fun, and to kind of dive into it a little bit. I think more chiropractors need to hear this type of stuff on the realities of what it takes to grow practice and have fun doing it and enjoy it and be motivated still after 30 years. So I commend you for that.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's been fun, and I hope to do it for another 20 plus years and keep just plugging away and helping people.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
All right, thanks for your time.
I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. And if you want to make the shift from busy, broke, and broken to time-free and cash confident, or you just want to continue with the exponential growth, check us out at modernchiropracticmarketing.com. Look at the MCM Mastery tab, watch the short video on there, and check out what we are doing now for evidence-informed chiropractors. We are equal parts coaching and marketing done for you. Yes, you shoot some videos, we help you with campaign strategies and ideas and really become a thought leader in your community. You shoot those videos, you send them to us, we produce, edit, and brand them to you. Then we distribute them through all of your channels. We also take them and we turn it into one good blog per month. And every other month, we have Darcy Sullivan producing a robust blog with a topic that you pick from her database to help with your SEO. So we essentially become your content marketing agency to make sure your practice is always having ethical, elegant content marketing to help grow your practice. On the coaching side, we also help you with everything from marketing ideas to business, communications, finances, anything practice growth, and really try to help prevent you from being stuck on that island. And we hold you accountable. We have a great group of doctors that are just doing amazing things, and we look forward to help you out to take that next step in your practice. So again, check us out at modernchiropracticmarketing.com and learn more.